Hey everybody, what's going on? Lex here, and we are back with another Madden 17 video. EA Play is over. They showed a little tiny bit of Madden, I guess, and we got some franchise news out of it. The franchise blogs have been posted, parts 1 and 2, plus some information from other places like Game Informer and PastaPadre.com. So first and foremost, I want to say that I've been eagerly anticipating this news for quite some time. I even woke up really early this morning just because my body was ready, I guess you could say. I woke up and, I didn't want to go back to sleep. I was ready for this news of Madden franchise because that's what I do in these games. Franchise mode. That's what I play, and that's what's most important to me. I know gameplay guys, and I completely understand why that's most important. But to me, gameplay means nothing if you don't have a mode to enjoy it in. And same thing. If you have a great mode, you don't have the gameplay to enjoy. There's something to be said for that too. But anyway, getting to this, I'm pretty disappointed with the news. And honestly, I kind of feel like they don't get it. The devs, they don't get it. They do, but they don't. They gave us some features that I've actually been wanting to see in Madden for quite some time, but they've also either kept features or added features that personally I'm scratching my head about. I really don't get personally why they would have done that. So let's go ahead and start with this Madden NFL 17 franchise blog part 1, playing the moments and game planning. So we get a nice little video from Mike and Mike here that go over the top 3 important things about franchise mode this year or whatever. So play the moments. What does this mean? Basically, it's kind of like Road to the Show in the sense of the most important plays will pop up and you'll play only those plays. Just to speed the game along. This is optional, of course. You don't have to do this, but I guess they wanted to add it in for those people who don't have a lot of time. And I don't really understand that because number one, I do have a lot of time. I guess I make time to enjoy video games. I have a son. I spend time with him, but at the same time, I want to do what I enjoy as well, and that's video games, so I find time for that. I don't have much sympathy for people who say they can't find the time for these kind of things. I understand it, I do, but I don't necessarily agree that we should be trying to speed everything up and just get through everything as quickly as possible. Let's savor it and let's enjoy these modes. Let's not just try to race to the end of this 30-year franchise mode for some reason, where it's largely going to be the same in season 20 as it is in season 1. But also with this, you can see you can play offense only or play defense only if that's your thing. If you're only an offensive guy and you don't like defense, looks like you don't have to do that. But we can see in the background here something that I'm not fond of at all. If you remember back to my Madden 16 review, one of my knocks on franchise mode was the menus. And the menus look exactly the same. Big week 1, the tabs, you can tab over to the different sections. The NFL Head Coach 09-esque task list here. This is different though down here. Oh, up here, the week by week thing. It looks like the Twitter feed has returned to the front page, so that's okay. But it looks like the actual pictures are gone. So I don't know. I don't like this menu at all. So if you are okay with this menu, obviously this doesn't really mean anything to you. But for people who just hate this menu, it's still gonna be in there. Which, remember, they were advertising franchise mode as overhauled and saving the best for last and all this kind of stuff. So in a way, they overhyped it, in my opinion. Do they think these are big additions? Probably. They probably took a lot of work and everything like that. But let me progress before I go off on a tangent here. So I guess real quickly, I'll explain how this works. It's Super Sims to the point, and you can see this big graphic on the field here. So you'll be on the field as everything happens and whatnot. So it's a super sim, jump in at big moments type gameplay that I'm sure some will enjoy. I just don't see much immersion in this. Going down here, game planning. So they've kind of reworked game planning in the sense of you're going to get a kind of like a tendencies list of what your opponent, your upcoming opponent is going to do or has been doing, and you can then game plan and run drills to in a sense battle that, whatever the effect might be, and you can basically get in-game boosts for your players with XP. And unfortunately, I'm saying XP because it's still here. And not only is it still here, but it looks like they've doubled down on it. It looks even more XP heavy than before, which is baffling, because later on I'm going to talk about superstar development traits and how they're dynamic this year. And in the Press Row podcast that John White did with Rich Grisham, he talks about how the superstar development trait, moving up or down depending on a player's performance, is dynamic, and it makes it feel organic. I'll tell you what doesn't feel organic: XP. Stop it. XP is terrible. It is the worst. These players should be naturally progressing, not us trying to basically do minute things to gain XP to put into our players' specific areas. And I know you can turn this off and everything, but that doesn't mean that XP has gone away. It's still there. There's always something there to remind you, as the song goes, of XP. XP, XP, XP. Enough. Stop. We don't need XP anymore. And the fact that I thought overhaul meant possibly getting rid of this XP and drive goals. Yes, drive goals are still in the game. The feature that was universally panned last year, still in the game. And again, it seems like they've doubled down on all this stuff. So I really don't have confidence in this team right now. The gameplay guys, people who are, who their top priority is gameplay, they can have confidence in that specific team because they've really shown improved what they're heading for, how rich they've made the gameplay, and how dynamic they've made the gameplay. And I'm not saying that none of the features done aren't going to make this Madden more dynamic in franchise mode, but what I'm saying is XP is an obvious problem. Not only that, but drive goals are an obvious problem. So to keep them in the game, it bugs me, because we're going to be seeing it still all over the place, and I don't like it. So I guess that's my rant on XP. I know some of you don't really care about XP. I know some of you, I've heard from some of you who can't stand it either, and I just wish, I really wish we would get away from this gamey XP stuff. I know it's a game, it's a video game, but it's a simulation video game, and when XP's popping up all over the place, I don't feel immersed, and I don't feel like it's simulation. So I talk about in-game boosts. So, for example, if you choose the vertical passing offensive game plan, then your players will have ratings impacted any time you call a vertical pass play during that week's game. It's the same for defense. For example, if you choose the cover 2 defense game plan, then your players will have ratings impacted anytime you call a cover 2 play during the game. So basically what this is saying is that if the team you're facing loves running routes right down the seam, and typically you call cover 2, that's your tendency. So what you would do is you would then say, okay, well, if their tendency is to run those, middle of the field routes, then I'll go into cover 3, or I'll go into cover 1, and I'll make sure the middle of the field is protected. So I'll choose that to game plan, and then anytime you call that, not only are you calling that to possibly defend one of their over the middle routes, but you're also getting a boost as well from calling that play, which is a little odd. It kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't, but we'll see. We'll have to see how that all works out, basically. So this is a part of player progression that's kind of new too, is player focusing. So you're going to select 3 players to focus on each week, and these players will get XP so that they can develop into the players you need for your team. For example, the Bucks and the Titans can use this to help their second-year QBs, while the Jags can focus on developing their young defense by selecting Ramsey and Jack. At the beginning of each season, the initial focus players are the top 3 players picked up in the draft, but you can adjust this to focus on who you feel is most important. So, it's just kind of a way to help develop your team, the younger players on your team a little bit more than they would naturally progress, I guess. So basically what this game planning is doing is getting you more involved on selecting who should progress, how they should progress, and kind of just giving you even more control over who does what. But again, it doesn't really feel organic all that much. We're just going to have to wait and see how it feels in motion. So that was the first blog right there. I mean, that was the first blog, the whole blog. And honestly, I didn't say too many positive things about it. Game planning could be cool, but if you notice, this is kind of focusing everything onto one team. So if you're a player like myself who likes to control more than one team or all 32 teams, I'm not going to go through all this with all 32 teams, game planning and stuff like that. So more than likely, I just won't play 32 teams on this Madden, because it just seems like such a headache, and which is a huge shame, because I think there are quite a few people who like to pick more than one team when they're playing an offensive franchise or an offline franchise, because what it does is it gives you variety. You may not have 2 favorite teams, but you may want to play with so and so rookie quarterback over here, but also want to play with your favorite team. And while you can still do that, it just seems like it's not any better to do it. It's not any more streamlined. It's not any more accessible. All right, so now let's get into the second blog that was released, called Big Decisions and Community. Now, big decisions are new this year. Basically, they're going to be stuff about depth chart, setting season goals, injuries, and things of that nature. As a coach, I guess as an owner too, you're going to be faced with these decisions that you're going to have to make, and it's going to impact certain things. So basically, let's go down here. If you're setting your season goal, and that's your big decision that you have to make, the higher you set for your team, the higher goal you set for your team, the more XP you're going to get. And again, XP. So I like the system of having to make decisions and making that dynamic and the risk reward thing, but I just don't like XP being the reward. I really just don't like XP, and it's just it seems like it's so much more prevalent this year from what we're seeing. You talk about early returns from injury. So if Donald Penn here, the left tackle, says, oh, I'm 100% cleared to come back, but he has a high chance of hurting himself again so early on, you can go ahead and try to start your backup, and starting your backup will get you double game XP and double game, the player earns double game XP as well. But obviously you're going to have a weaker player in. Now, if you want to start the guy who was injured, then there's going to be some huge risks involved with that, but the reward is having that better player in. I like this. I think it's cool. I think it's dynamic, and I think that it certainly is something that happens in real life, deciding who to start and whether or not to rush somebody back from injury, especially if there's a big game up ahead. If there's a game that you need to get into the playoffs, and now you're faced with your starting left tackle, is he going to be okay? He's cleared, but he might get hurt. So even if you win the game, he might not be there for the playoffs. But if you don't put them in, you might not make it to the playoffs at all. I mean, that's cool. I like that. I like that kind of decision-making process. However, the reward for this would be XP. And again, I've already said how I feel about XP. I mean, everything's XP, 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 XP. All right, let's go down to the free agency now. So basically, you're going to see the depth chart. You're going to see the player here. So they have Andre Roberts. Your depth chart here is Andre Holmes and Michael Rivera. It basically compares them against them. It gives you a grade for your depth chart here, and it tells you the development trait as well. And it says that the commentators will actually speak on new additions if they make big plays, relatively close, I guess, to when they sign. And this is something that's not really discussed all that much, but it sounds like presentation might have the biggest effect on franchise mode out of everything that they put in here. Who knows? But it sounds like at least the presentation is going to be up to par, and that was a significant change as well. All right, so re-signing is another part of everything, and with bigger name players that are in the final year of their contract, you're going to be able to negotiate them with them early on in the season because you already know what they can bring to the table. You already know what their production usually is. You know what their stats are and their attributes are. So you're going to get to negotiate with them early on. Guys that are down the roster, down the depth chart, that really haven't proven themselves yet, are going to be given the whole season to at least prove themselves before you start talking contract negotiation with them. And so you're going to be able to track whether or not they are having a good year, aren't having a good year. You no longer have to try to re-sign these guys who you're unsure about way early on in the season. And of course, you'll have a chance to talk with them down the line as well for the some of the bigger players. So more XP talk, of course. God, I hate XP. Basically, it's giving you an easier menu to spend XP on. Kind of streamlines everybody who has XP and who needs to spend points and all that kind of crap. I don't really get into XP all that much. So if you're into XP, this probably helps you quite a bit. Otherwise, it's just probably an annoyance. And, of course, you have to cut players. I mean, we have expanded rosters, and we now have practice squads, which I'll get to in just a bit. But you have to cut players, so, this is a part of the big decision thing, too, is who do you cut, who do you keep, and who do you aim to put on the practice squad as well. So this right here is basically talking about a streamlined menu for free agency. You're going to see the top bids and the teams who are bidding. And it's kind of smaller to see here. Let me try to boost this up. I don't know how well this is going to work here. Okay, so you see 104 points, 89 points. I guess that's their bids. I thought you would get like extra actual money, but I guess they're going with points. So it's talking about fair offer here, $51.5 million over 6 years. Plus a $19.8 million bonus for $71.3 million for Tyrann Mathieu. And you can see your bid. So you bid the fair offer bid. It looks like this is the Rams. So in this bid, you would have been fourth in line for Mathieu. And then you also get a look at your depth chart with the grade as well, who you have and what their contract is. I like this. This is bringing all those stuff, all the important information that you'd probably need, all into one menu. That's good. I like that. I really don't have a problem with this menu in particular. Of course, if you're playing multiple teams, I don't know how well this is all going to work, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So let's go down now to the community requests. What did we as a community request? Well, I requested a lot of things. I know a lot of you have requested multitude of things. So let's see. Score ticker. Absolutely. Yeah, we've been asking for that for quite some time now. I really don't know why it hasn't been in. Games that are over a decade old have had score tickers in them. So while this is a good addition, it's one of those additions that I was like, okay, yeah, pat yourself on the back and keep going. It's a score ticker. It's good to have in there. It's great to have in there and everything, but it should have been in there a long time ago. There's no reason it shouldn't have. And we'll see how it works, but basically what this is saying is that you can now customize your score ticker. So if you want nothing but scores on there, you can have that. If you want to mix in your drive goal situation, you can mix that in too, or you can have just drive goal information. I guess you can kind of customize it to however you see fit. It's kind of plain Jane looking. It's fine. It's clean looking, at least. Nice and big. Without being, I guess, too intrusive on the screen. Going down, full player editing. Now, a lot of people have been wanting this. A lot of people, this was a huge addition for them, and I'm glad that you guys got that addition. Personally, I really don't have a need for it. I don't go in and change ratings. I've never really had the desire to go change ratings. The only thing that I've ever had the desire to do is go and change equipment, especially for the rookies coming in, because they always have some sort of equipment issue. And so I'll do that, but I could do that on the old games too. It wasn't a big deal. I guess I had to do it at a certain point in time. But if you're a commissioner and you run a league, you can decide, if everyone decides, this player really isn't that good in this particular area, you can then lower that attribute. You'll also be able to edit contract information if you want to do that. Again, something I never do and never would do. Or at least I don't imagine I would. Here's probably one of the best, if not the best, additions that they made, practice squads. Now, if you don't know what a practice squad is, basically when they run training camps, what they end up doing is they'll be able to add 10 players to the practice squad. Now, the practice squad is not an active roster, but one, they help with practice, obviously. They practice against whoever. But also, they're there ready to go if anything happens on the main roster. So they'll get called up if someone has an injury or if they need an extra body or whatever it may be. And, not many guys have made it from practice squad to, NFL roster mainstays. But some have, and it needs to be represented, and it looks like it is represented. And these guys will be able to progress too on a week-to-week basis, so you can kind of use this as an incubator to kind of grow talent that maybe nobody else has their eye on. Every team's going to have a 10-man practice squad, so obviously the rosters and player pool will have to be a little bit expanded, I would imagine. And you can kind of mix it up, but there is a rule for this. You can only add a member to the practice squad if they have less than 2 full years of NFL service. So basically, any guys that are in their rookie season and any guys that are in their sophomore season can be on the practice squad. Any players that are older than that cannot be, so you can't hoard veterans on your practice squad. It has to be young, developing players that you're going to add on here, and I like this a lot. I'm a huge fan of practice squads. I think they should have been in the game a long time ago. I'm glad they're finally here. Madden 12 is a game that introduced expanded rosters, and so now it took us 5 years to get there, but we finally have practice squads, and that's a great thing. Now, for some of you probably are like, I never use this, and you may never really use this. You have to obviously put people on the practice squad. You have to, but at least I'm guessing you have to. Yeah, I don't know if you have to or not, I guess, but one cool thing is that if you put someone on, if you see, okay, you drafted a young player and you see a lot of potential in him, but you just have no room on your roster for him. Say it's a wide receiver, and he's got great speed, but he just doesn't have the hands to play in the NFL right now. So you're going to put him on your practice squad and develop those hands. However, if your buddy who's playing in your online league sees, or the computer for that matter, sees maybe their standard of wide receivers are a little bit lower and sees that speed and they go, he's on that practice squad, I'm going to go grab him. They can do that. They can steal someone off your practice squad as long as they sign them to their main roster, to their 53-man roster. They can't take one of your practice guys and put it on their practice squad. They just can't do that. So I think practice squad is going to add a lot of interesting things, especially for me. And I look forward to seeing what kind of dynamic things happen with practice mode and who comes out of it and who doesn't and who becomes a star. It's going to be really cool to kind of track. All right, so the next thing we're going to talk about now is dynamic development trait. And really the development trait, it basically affects how efficiently your player can progress in his first couple years at the very least. Now, if you drafted a guy who had low development, he's going to stay low development until you spend XP to buy a development package, which is so unrealistic, it's ridiculous. That kind of fixes this, in a sense. If we look at Devontae Booker here, and he has a normal, right now he has a normal development trait. If he has an explosive season, that normal may rise up to a good. If he has a terrible season where he has a ton of fumbles, or if he just doesn't reach his season goals, he's going to go down a notch and become kind of a worse off player because of it. So the fact that this can change not only on your team but on every team in the NFL, that's going to make things a lot more dynamic, and players are really going to be able to progress based on how they perform, which is very cool. It's an interesting way to kind of answer that question of how do you get a guy to naturally progress when you can't 100% base it on production. So if a quarterback throws constantly passes of 20 yards or more, and he's just bombing it down, and he's got pretty good accuracy, and he keeps doing it. If you progress that specific trait of his, he's only going to get better and better and better at it. It's kind of the rich get richer, poor get poorer thing. So, but like I said earlier, it's funny that John White was mentioning how this is basically organic when they double down on XP, which is not organic at all. And that really confuses me, and it makes me pretty angry, actually. So regression feedback. So players regress. It happens. Players get worse as they get older. Here you see three guys in their 30s, William Hayes, Dan Skuta, and Eugene Sims. It's going to tell you how many attribute points they fell. So it's also going to have a specific breakdown of what attribute points fell. So in the grand scheme of things, I don't like ratings. I don't like attributes. I think they kind of take away from the game a little bit. In real life, yes, scouts have a point system, but we don't have actual ratings of this guy is for certain a 76 in hit power. That's just not how it works in real life. But if we have to have the attributes, this is a neat way to kind of visualize how our players are regressing, what kind of rate they're regressing at, what we need to do from here on out. Do we need to draft immediately to find a successor for this person because they've only got one more season left at this rate? Do we try to trade them and see what we get for them? So it's all part of the strategy. And then, of course, player card improvements kind of gives you analysis on the player itself. Right here it says Joe Flacco is the 27th ranked quarterback in the league. based on his overall rating of 82. Of course, that just sounds weird. That doesn't sound organic at all, his overall rating. Putting him in the top 14% of quarterbacks. And then it gives you a list of their traits as well. So just a little more information on the player card, and by that you can see you can tab over. So the overview would be what we got originally. Skills kind of give you the attributes breakdown, and gives you a progression history too. So more stuff to look at, more stats, more analyzing things. And that's all the information from these two blogs. A lot of information to take in, I guess. And honestly, there are some good things here. However, that the fact that, one, they have not streamlined this menu or system at all for 32 team control really gets to me. The fact that they have doubled down on XP and drive goals and progressing players that way has really irked me. And also, they're not really mentioning anything about the draft, which was such a drab thing. Before, draft presentation to me is boring. The draft is a big event every year, and it's not represented well in Madden at all. And I was hoping with this quote-unquote overhaul that they were going to actually do that, but it doesn't sound like they have. I want to switch over to the Game Informer article because it does mention a few things here that these two blogs didn't mention. So we talked about earlier the news for franchise mode is now back on that front page with the Twitter feed. So again, that's not necessarily what I had in mind when I was talking about front page immersion when I sent my ideas in to the team. But hopefully that'll get fixed sometime soon, because the Twitter feed is just not enough. It's dull, it's boring, and it gets way too predictable. One other thing I want to mention is the 170 plus heads have been scanned from actors with a range of diversity for use with created characters, coaches, and drafted players. So obviously there are more than 170 new players that come in the league every year, but I guess new pictures are good. I don't know if they're going to add those 170 to the ones they already have. Hopefully they do, so we can get that bigger variety there, but we'll have to wait and see on there. So presentation banners will call out your new rookies, free agents, and injured players on the field, and commentary will mention them. For more on the game's commentary, you can click there and check out their Brandon Godden and Charles Davis commentary thing. To me, presentation, like I said, presentation seems like it's going to be the biggest deal in franchise mode this year, which is so funny because it's handled by a different team completely. So obviously, what do I think overall with the franchise mode news? Honestly, I don't feel like this is an overhaul. I really don't. I think they added some nice things. But the core problems with this mode are still present. The fact that XP and drive goals are still here, the menus, and also the lack of accessibility to people who want to control more than one team. I mean, this mode is designed for players who want to control one team through 30 years. And while there are plenty of people who want to do that, there are a lot of people who want to play with multiple teams, or like myself, play with all teams and just have that variety. Like I said before, it's like playing myself in chess. I'm trying to make every team better, and that's just the way I have fun. But I mean, this mode is still going to feel pretty wooden. It's not going to have the personality that I would necessarily want in this mode. It's not going to have the stories that I'd necessarily want in this mode. It's still lacking. It's still behind, and the fact that they pumped it up so much is kind of disappointing to me. Because honestly, again, some good additions here. I don't want to downplay the fact that they have made some good additions. But all in all, I don't think it was that exciting. I think it was pretty underwhelming, actually. If any other news breaks that wasn't really covered here, then I'll make a new video. But right now, people are playing Madden 17, so we're going to be seeing some gameplay footage probably pretty soon on EA's live stream. We're probably going to get impressions from a lot of people in the community. I'm sure the gameplay is fantastic. I'm sure the gameplay, again, is what got the main focus in this whole cycle. I think there are some good building blocks. I just think before they made those building blocks, they should have just leveled the whole thing, like they did with commentary. Just level all the franchise, rebuild it with a very solid foundation, get in some of these things that we've been wanting to see, and then build from there, and I would have been happy. Unfortunately, we're continuing to build on a rotten foundation with XP, and I really hope Madden 18 just bulldozes the whole thing. Maybe Frostbite will have something to do with a new mode. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. I hope I didn't get you too down. If you're excited about franchise mode this year, let me know in the comments. Don't let me bum you out. If you're excited about something, awesome. I'm excited about a few of these things here. I will be reviewing Madden 17, and I will be playing this franchise mode. So I'm going to give it a shot. I'm not saying the game's going to be terrible. I'm not going to do anything like that. I'm not going to declare anything like that. What I am going to say is I'm frustrated by some of this news. I'm kind of frustrated by the way things were promoted. Overhaul made me think one thing, didn't. Oh well, I'll get over it. I'm probably going to be in a slump for the rest of the day just because I've been looking forward to this news for quite some time. But anyway, drop your thoughts down in the comments. What do you like? What do you don't like? What do you think they should fix? Maybe even patch in. I don't know. We'll see. And like the vid so you can share it around. We can get some more franchise discussion going. I really don't want to see franchise mode just go to the wayside to something like Ultimate Team or Draft Champions. So that'll do it for me. Until next time, see you guys later.